Hey. With what seems to be the inevitably looming shutdown of TikTok and consequently Booktok, I found myself somewhat in a state of grief. Not entirely just because I'm grieving, the friends I've made and the communities we've built and the space to come online and discuss books in a really well nuanced way, but more so because of how dramatic that place is. I'm not sure how all of us are going to function without the consistent, repetitive 3-month cycle of just Booktok drama happening on and off and on and off and on and off again. So I thought, as somewhat of a goodbye, as a thank you, as an ode to Booktok, I would gather in sort of a time capsule manner my favourite Booktok drama that has happened over the last few years and just list them all in this video while we all drink some tea together. All jokes aside, some of these genuinely had me questioning whether I was interacting with bots and AI figures because it's unimaginable to me that a human being can actually think that way. First on the list, did you know if you wanted to boost your sales and avoid any type of conflict whatsoever, you could just fake your death? Did you know that? I did it. So way back when in 2020, a romance author named Susan Meachin faked her death after allegedly being bullied by her fellow writers. Now this of course had the exact impact you would expect would have when someone takes their own life after being bullied and harassment. There was an outpouring of grief, of thoughts, of prayers, of people discussing, being kind to each other and harassment and bullying, etc. And some fans grieved so much that according to that romance community, they funded her funeral. And on top of that, also got together to help finish and edit her final book. So over the next few years, as fans are still grieving her, still talking about what happened to her, still drawing on her experience as a reason to keep bullying, to keep harassment, to keep any type of, negative activity away from authors and away from author spaces, her book sales also continued to skyrocket. Her social media accounts continued to grow. Everything continued to just flourish in a way of people grieving her. They were like, she was such a good author, etc., etc., etc. People kept buying her books. People kept discussing her books. They kept promoting her books. Her sales truly skyrocketed. Her social media grew. She had amassed a much bigger following in her death than she ever had in her life until 2023.
Stinky.
And hallelujah, praise be to God, it's a holiday miracle. Susan comes back to life and in true unamended millennial fashion announces this holy resurrection on Facebook. Now, despite this beautiful miracle and her holy resurrection of being yanked out of the earth where she was buried by the mighty holy hand of the Lord, she still doesn't give her fans any answers, but rather writes, I debated on how to do this a million times, and I'm still not sure if it's right or not. There's going to be tons of questions. I'm in a good place now, and I'm hoping to write again. Let the fun begin. Let the fun begin. Baby girl, I don't know how to tell this to you. You should be a decomposed corpse right now. Let the funs begin. We're not on the Hunger Games. You don't get to let the games begin your way away from any questions, away from quite literally taking money from your fans and letting them do all of this and create an entire movement based off of your name and not saying anything and then just let the games begin. If I punch you in your teeth right now. Of course, as expected, she received an insane amount of backlash for this, with fans saying basically what I just said, which is, we funded your funeral, we edited your book, we've continued to promote your texts, we've been volunteering to continue running your social media accounts, etc., etc. Fellow authors created an anthology on her behalf of the introduction being dedicated to her and keeping bullying away from people. Without continuing to explain things properly, she says that she had simply taken time for herself and it was her family that spread the lie about the fact that she'd done that and that they thought they were doing what was best for me. So not only did you pretend to take your own life and continue taking money and free marketing and free PR and publicity from your fans, you then didn't take any accountability for it and blamed it on nameless family. Next on the list, if you've ever considered being an adult actor or an exotic entertainer, but you've just, never really had the time because you have so many books to read and so much to get done, cry no more and look no further. You just need to be a female Booktok creator and an author will reach out to you and ask for suggestive pictures and videos. January 2024, what an incredible way to start the year and what a fantastic omen for where the rest of the year was going to take us. The author J.D. Barker sends out a slew of promotional emails to women, mainly of smaller Booktok accounts, asking them to help promote his book. Now in this email, he tells them a little bit about the book and then he tells them what they need to do and gives them a step-by-step guide on how to film these adult videos. Instructions are as follows. The text that goes on the video will say, "What kind of person are you, sugar or spice?" The video should be a playful image while the word sugar is on the screen, then a fast cut to something racy when the word spice appears. You do your part in understanding what he means by racy. Music, thank you so much, is the creator's choice in fact. Next option for a video would be, where is the most taboo place you've ever had? Video should focus the camera on the influencer for 10 to 15 seconds, holding the book or pointing at a digital image of a book, then quick flash to their taboo place for half a second. Music, again, thank you so much. Creator's choice. Nowhere in that incredibly detailed email did he ever consider mentioning an age limit. He didn't look at the creators' ages in their bios before reaching out to them. He didn't ask them their ages, nor did he say that this paid campaign was exclusive for 18 plus only creators, meaning some of the people that were reached out to were minors. As if people weren't angry with him enough for the email alone, when everyone found out that there was no age verification, it sparked a much wider outrage and a much wider conversation about the ways in which minors and younger people are being protected on social media and the ways in which they are being preyed upon by older, more powerful people. Literally just a few days after this outrage, JD sent out another slew of emails basically profusely apologizing and saying that he didn't send out those emails and he had no control whatsoever over what he did, and his PR firm had control over his emails and it was their idea to do this racy, suggestive PR marketing campaign. So just like Susan, who I think you guys would make a perfect pair, no accountability and blaming other people for something done off of your own personal account. Great. Now, speaking about the safeguarding of young children and minors, remember when a bunch of people on Booktok were harassing a teenage boy because he had a motorbike? What the fuck? Let me set the scene for you. It's November 2023. Halloween is over. Christmas is upon us. The winter season is here. You are wrapped up at home in front of the fire with a book with nothing else to do but daydream about the book that you're reading. Dark romance books begin to be dark romance biker books, which cause a crossover between Booktok and Biketok. Absolutely fine. A lot of the men on Biketok, grown adult men, were enjoying the attention that they were getting. They would sometimes play into the attention that they were getting. They would read the books that people were comparing them to. They would, pretend to be the characters in the books that they were being fan casted for. They were playing into this. That's absolutely fine. They're fully grown, consenting adult men. Now, this fun, exciting line and crossover between Booktok and Biketok, which had very rarely happened before, was very quickly blurred and crossed when a significant amount of people from that community began to harass a 16-year-old boy who used to post videos of himself with motorcycles, going as far as badgering him and relentlessly commenting on his videos, telling him to read dark romance books. Before I carry on with the details of this, I've seen a lot of people commenting and blaming dark romance as a whole for this, which I don't actually agree with at all. I feel like it's a pretty unfair claim to make. People have autonomy and people have brains and they have common sense, and they shouldn't have to be told or be banned from reading something in order to know how to behave around other human beings. So this isn't dark romance's fault. It is specifically those women's faults. And I'd just like to get that out of the way because I don't want to see in my comment section saying this is why dark romance should be banned. I personally don't read it, but I just don't really understand why you would blame an entire literary genre on the actions of a few people. It's like if someone just started going around stabbing people and you blamed all video games instead of that person, Anyway, his name is Jess B, something like that, and he's a 16-year-old boy on TikTok who just posts videos of his bike. He wears a helmet in all of his videos because he's aware that he's a minor and he wants to cover his face and not be a target. And all of his videos are just about cleaning and taking care of his bike. He was 16 years old. How did we know he was 16 years old? He said it in his bio. At the time that he was being harassed and badgered, 16 was already in his bio. It was his name, it was whatever else, and then 16, then the random little TikTok links that come up. 16 years old. He placed it there. He covered his face. He made it clear, I am a minor online just having fun with my bike. And they still thought, yeah, I'm gonna tell him to read this. are we okay? Logically speaking, and with just a little bit of common sense, I don't think in real life, in the real world, if your friend's 15 or 16-year-old son or daughter came up to you and asked you for a book recommendation knowing you're a reader, I don't think that you would recommend a dark romance book. I don't think that you would say to a 16 or a 15-year-old boy, you know what I think you'll really enjoy? Haunting Adeline. This video has continued to skyrocket, tenfold viewership, banging, and his comment section was filled with women who were admittedly old enough to be his mother, his teacher, his boss, his this, his that. They were saying, oh, I'm old enough to be this is like a guilty pleasure. You like children. On the topic of being weird and harassing someone online with explicit comments and suggestive comments, even when they've asked you not to and they've made it clear that they weren't interested, did you know that harassing a man and his wife because you fan casted him as a character in your book is actually enough to get you on the Kelly Clarkson show? Alex Wemberg, an ice hockey player, gets fan casted as a character in one of the ice hockey romance books. This is fine at first. Kierra Lewis, one of the faces of this fan casting, makes a lot of videos about this, and him and his team and the people around him are happy with this at first. It's fantastic PR for them. It's fantastic PR for their team, for their games, you know, for the player himself. It's great, and the PR team are happy with it at first, to the point where they invite Kierra Lewis to one of their games. The article says, Wemberg and his wife Felicia played along with it for a while, but it seems that things quickly became too uncomfortable for them. Over the weekend, Felicia took to her Instagram account to share a couple of stories to express her increasing discomfort with the way that many Booktok fans talked about her husband. She talked about not minding the jokes at first, but there had been videos and comments that crossed the line of what it means to fancy someone and when it actually sounds pretty predatory and exploiting. Now, any normal human being, when reading that, would come to their senses and be like, okay, maybe I have done too much. Maybe I didn't realize I'd crossed the line before, which crazy, but still. But now I do. Now, not only is the person I'm harassing uncomfortable, but his wife is severely uncomfortable, and they're calling me predatory. They're uncomfortable with my existence. And while some fans did that, Kierra Lewis doubled down. Kierra then took this as a personal attack against her and her alone, rather than a conversation about the collective harassment of this man that was happening because of something she maybe played a part in kickstarting. And because of this, she didn't take any accountability, made numerous videos where she started defending herself while simultaneously also kind of attacking Felicia with videos like, I don't know this Felicia chick, I don't know who this Felicia chick thinks she is, etc., which was just wholly inappropriate. You were harassing the wife of someone that you were harassing for telling you to stop harassing him. The maths isn't mathing. Alex himself, who'd been silent about this because he didn't know how to navigate the situation because of the way that she had been then attacking his wife, had to make a video and a statement of his own, a statement and a post of his own, noting how uncomfortable he was by all of this and how much he'd like her to just stop. Is that not the single most humiliating thing that could have happened to someone in their life? Like, you could have been the person that got invited to a game because you helped with their PR, and instead you became a person that harassed and stalked them and got called predatory. I just don't understand. And one of my favorite controversies on Booktok and Booktok drama, but this was mainly Book Twitter at first as well. Did you know that you had full authority to copyright The Sun? Oh, let me take you back to December 2023. Nigerian author, and I specify Nigerian because it's very relevant to the rest of the story, Marvelous Michael Anson gets onto Twitter to share the marvelous news that she's finally releasing her debut novel, Firstborn of the Sun. In her excitement and her enthusiasm, she talks more about her book, and she says that it was, deeply influenced by Yoruba culture of West Africa. She says it features a population of people who are born with Agbara, the Yoruba word roughly translating to power, but here describes the ability to summon energy from the sun. Now, earlier I mentioned and I specified that it was a Nigerian author. Why did I specify that? Well, you're about to find out. In her announcement of these, another author rises from the weeds, a white author who, again, you will eventually understand why I'm specifying races, but a white author rises from the heat, from the fiery depths of the earth, to talk to her. Lauren M. Davis had a problem with the way that Anson was describing her book. Davis had an issue with the fact that Anson used solar-themed powers in her book and called her out on it as copyright infringement. Yeah. Before we get into like the actual deep issues with what happens in this entire interaction and the way it progresses, I also feel like it's important to discuss what a lot of fans discuss, which is, I don't really think you could copyright the sun and solar panels. You know, I don't think you can do that. Just, hey, like, and if you could, you'd be copyright infringing too, babe. You're not the first person, you're not the last person to do it. I don't know what to tell you. Back to why I mentioned race. She said that a big part of why she was shocked was because Anson was actually originally from Nigeria and just moved to the UK to have her book published. What? Despite this already being an implicitly outrageous thing to say, nonetheless standing there solitarily, she said, I'm not just gonna leave it there as a solitary comment. Actually, I'm gonna double down on this. I'm gonna post a screenshot of my Google searching what type of crimes come out of Nigeria, because that's really gonna help me in the way that I look in the long run. And she did that. And the screenshot basically is talking about the rise of banking, phishing scams, cyber fraud, drug trafficking, and money laundering. And she used this screenshot essentially to imply and suggest that because the author is black and Nigerian and coming directly from Nigeria rather than, you know, being born and raised in the pure and good and clean England, she must be a scammer who is defrauding her because she is the pure, you know, white author who invented this idea of sun powers that can never be plagiarized because no one has ever thought about having powers from the sun before, and no one could ever possibly think about it next. Anyway, that was a crazy one. Another one that genuinely I feel like took my world by storm. Every single day I would open Twitter and I would open TikTok and I would open Instagram, and there was just more information, and it's the Cait Corrine debacle. I'm gonna summarize it as quickly as I can. Basically, a white debut author created numerous Goodreads accounts to basically review bomb all of the other authors of color who were debuting in the same year and then also like give herself incredibly positive reviews, and then she got discovered for it. I don't think I can go too deeply into this. It was in February 2024, but Read with Cindy made a video about it. It's, I think, 40 minutes long. Incredible video, details quite literally everything about it. I really think that you should watch it because it's crazy. Number 6 on the list, and the second to last one, Victoria Aveyard, known author of the Red Queen series, gets accused of plagiarizing a book that came out almost 10 years after hers. Yeah. So we all might know about a book called Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Lauren Roberts is a former Booktok star who gained fame basically by being really excitable, really bubbly, a very sweet girl, I can't lie. You know, I followed her when she had 3,000 followers. Very sweet girl. She used to just sit on her swing in her room, talk about books she read. And then around a year into her journey, she decided she wanted to write a book. And she did. And she documented the entire journey, took Booktok by storm. And it was an instant bestseller, basically. She's already released 3 books within the last 2 years, I think. She released a novella and a sequel, etc. I don't know the details. I personally haven't read the book. It doesn't really, from what I've heard about it, it's just not being sold to me. But from what I've heard, it is in fact basically copy-paste Red Queen and the Hunger Games. And Victoria Aveyard obviously heard about this. I'm assuming she probably read this book, and being an author herself doesn't want to be petty online and talk about it, but she does engage and she does sometimes interact with comments like this. However, it got really, really bad when people started talking about how original Lauren Roberts' book was and how, you know, no one had ever thought about it. It's so exciting, blah, blah, blah. So Victoria Aveyard, a few weeks ago, almost a month ago now, posted a video where she's not showing her books. You know, it's the side of the book, and she's saying, would you read a book that, and describing it. I'm just going to put the video on screen.
Would you read a young adult dystopian fantasy about a world divided by those who have superpowers and those who do not? And in the middle of it all is a young thief from the slums who somehow gets pulled into the world of the superpowered elite. And in doing so, ends up torn between 2 brothers who also happen to be the princes of the kingdom. Oh, and there's a rebellion going on all at the same time. If you said yes, then you would love Red Queen. In fact, you would love all of Red Queen. This is my YA dystopian fantasy series, and she is ready for you to binge.
Now, after posting that video, her comment sections were flooded by Powerless fans talking about how she plagiarized this book, and this is the exact plot of Powerless, and how dare you plagiarize a smaller author like this? This is the exact plot of Powerless. How can you copy this from Lauren Roberts? This is the exact plot of Powerless. This is the exact plot of Powerless. No, it's not, girl. Powerless is the exact plot of Red Queen. I don't know how to tell you guys this. Like, they'd be like, not you plagiarizing Powerless, and there would always have to be someone in the comment section saying, girl, like, this book came out in 2015, like, come on. And no one was hearing it. They were like she basically just copied this entire concept. How could she have copied the concept if she's got 5 books in front of her and Lauren has 2? I didn't understand it, and everyone was fuming like you. And I genuinely thought I was going insane, because you scroll through the comment section and every single comment is like, this is just Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Am I lost? Am I confused? This is just the plot of Powerless by Lauren Roberts. And so many people are fighting for their lives in this comment section, trying to explain to them, girl, like, this book came out before Powerless. And everyone's like, no, blah, blah, blah. What do you mean no? And the publication date is right there. Jesus Christ. Anyway, moving on to my personal favourite Booktok drama of the year. The issue of anti-intellectualism. Now, a lot of people have made think pieces about this video that I've made. They made the videos on TikTok, they made their videos on YouTube, and I feel like, who better to talk to than the main source? So, my video, which was 3 minutes long, could not possibly have been longer because people still weren't watching the full video, is basically talking about the rise of anti-intellectualism. Anti-intellectualism does not mean you are not intellectual. It does not mean you are stupid. It does not mean you're an idiot. It means you intentionally and willfully reject any type of intellectual conversation about a topic for the sake of your own comfort and enjoyment. When you're reading a book that very clearly has signs and themes of racism in it, and the author is an objective bigot, a proven bigot, and someone says to you, hey, by the way, like, you reading this book is incredibly harmful to these communities, and you're also funding a known bigot, and you say, let people read what they want. That's anti-intellectualism. You're not a good person because you're letting people read what they want. You're an anti-intellectual. You are rejecting these type of conversations. And so my video draws on a rise of anti-intellectualism in, number one, the way in which we are rejecting this type of conversation and guising it under, you're just so pretentious, like you just think you're better than me, like just let people read what they want. I'm not telling you what to read. I'm just telling you the consequences of what you read first and foremost. If I tell you, hey, by the way, like, when you read this book by this author, you are supporting a known abuser. Cool, you want to read that book, read it. But just know what you're doing. You just don't want to know. You don't want to be in a place where you are not consistently being coddled and told that everything you do is perfect. And that's not my personal problem at the end of the day. Like, no one is forcing you to read what you want to read, but just be aware of the consequences of what you do and what you consume. That's basically it. Next, I said that another rise of anti-intellectualism is the reductionism of books and the way in which books are being reduced. And I drew on the Poppy War as an example. The Poppy War, a book about war and imperialism and mythology and rape and abuse and assault and incredibly dark themes, being reduced to books with a strong female character. That is true. That is true. But that's not what it is. That's not what the book is about. And so a lot of people were angry because they were like, well, it's not my job to give you a full description of a book, blah, blah, blah. But if you've taken upon yourself the role and you've lifted the mantle of book reviewer and book recommender, unfortunately, sometimes you do have to do that, especially when you realize that this community, a lot of the people in this community are below the age of 18. Once they decide they like you, once they decide they trust your recommendations, they are just going to read what you tell them to read because they trust you. So you don't want to take on the responsibility of discussing a book based on what it's actually about. Fine. But be willing to be open to criticism for that. That's all it is. I'm not telling you how to review books. I'm just telling you that the ways in which some people review books can be harmful and can be dangerous and can perpetuate anti-intellectualism. That's what it is. Now, where I started getting confused was a lot of people decided that my video was telling people to read classics. I will give you £1 million if you can name the last time I read a classic. I will give you £1 million if you can go back to that video and find where I said, if you don't read classics, you are not an intellectual person. I will personally give you £1 million. It's not there. You're not going to find it. Good luck finding that money. You're not going to find it. It's not in the video. And things really started to infuriate me, and I really started to lose my mind, because how dare you take my words and twist them? And that was when I really came to the understanding that people will hear what they want to hear regardless of the language and the tone you speak it in. A lot of people started accusing me of misogyny because they said I'm basically suggesting that romance books aren't real literature. Again, I will give you £1 million if you can point out when in that video I mentioned romance. Because first of all, I read romance. Second of all, I love romance. Third of all, I never once mentioned women. I never once, other than the she pronoun I used when I was discussing the video that was being referenced. People were calling me a misogynist. They were calling me a bigot. They were calling me all types of things. I had to sit there for 3 weeks with people sending me threats, people insulting my appearance, people insulting who I was as a person, people insulting my character, people calling me a pretentious, stuck-up freak, all because I said we need to be a little bit more critical with the way in which we discuss books. And I made 2 follow-up videos, and in those videos, a lot of people said, I actually agree with what you said, I just don't like the tone you spoke in. Are we doing okay as a community? Some people said, people were defending me in the comments, and they would be like, oh man, you didn't even watch the full video, she said this. And someone was like, yeah, you're right, I only watched half of the video. So you mean to tell me I got bullied? I got literally bullied and attacked on social media. I had people sending me hate mail, sending me hate messages, sending me threats, who hadn't even watched the full video and hadn't watched the follow-up videos, just watched a minute of a 3-minute video and made a decision about what it was that I was saying. Are we seeing how outrageous that is? Genuinely, actual question, because that's horrifying to me personally. Anyway, I was the bigger person. I let people be angry about it. I made my final video where I said, this is the last I'm going to speak on this, and it was. I didn't engage in it whatsoever. I gave it a few more days and I went back to my normal book reviews. Until a few months passed and the US elections happened and the discussions about Booktok being political happened, and I saw vindication at last, because my video went from, within that week, the original video of anti-intellectualism went from around 2 million views to 2.3 million views. That's 300,000 extra views in a few days, with every single comment I was getting under that video within that 3-day period being people basically essentially apologizing. You don't need to apologize to me, but basically people being like, you were right, you predicted this, you saw this coming all along, I'm sorry, la la la. Now, I'm genuinely not a cocky person, I'm not a big-headed person, I'm not a petty person. So I saw this and I didn't feel cocky about it. I just felt like, at last the truth has been revealed. At last no one is thinking of me as this weird, stuck-up, pretentious person, and they're actually seeing what it is that I meant, and they just had refused to see it then. And a lot of people were messaging me, a lot of people were commenting on my videos, basically being like, yo, we owe you an apology, you were right, we misinterpreted it, I understand you now, blah blah blah. Thank you for that. I'm not angry about it, I'm not petty. To be completely honest with you, once I posted my last video, I stopped thinking about it, because I knew that I was right in what I said, and I stand by what I said. Yeah, R.I.P. Booktok. Shout out Booktok. I love you, Booktok. Or not R.I.P. There is a chance that it might not get banned. Either way, thank you for all the drama, all the goss, all the hot topics of the day. Bye.